So good morning, everybody, and welcome to Arena's virtual event today, Foodservice Reopen Right, together with our headline sponsor, Britvic Soft Drinks. As you know, most of you are aware and have joined this before that prior to COVID, Arena used to organise live events, the aim of which was very much to provide an educational, engaging and inspirational platform for our members to create new business relationships, catch up with industry friends and colleagues, and hear from industry speakers, whilst at the same time experiencing the hospitality of some wonderful venues. But due to COVID, our live events have been on pause, so we've gone virtual and launched a series of events entitled Ask Arena, which aims to bring the industry together to hear from inspirational speakers and provide practical, honest advice and knowledge that you can take back to your business. So we hope you enjoy today's event, which, as you know, focuses on the catering within the B&I sector. So we want to ensure that the event is as interactive as possible. So as well as our panel discussion, you also have the opportunity to put questions to our panel. So please post your questions via the Q&A box at the bottom of your screens, as at the end of the discussion, your questions will actually be put to our panel. And if you'd like to follow us on Twitter and tweet about today's event, you can follow us at Arena Networking, and the hashtag is #AskArena. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our host for today. So for 30 years, this person has worked with a number of businesses in both food service and retail, and most recently her agency William Murray PR and Marketing has developed a unique offering during COVID called Taste Shakers, which partners with restaurants to bring a new range of products to supermarket shelves. She's won a number of awards and was voted one of the top 150 women in food, drink and hospitality, and at the start of COVID really helped me launch our series of Ask Arena webinars. So without further ado, can I please welcome the CEO of William Murray PR and Marketing, Anita Murray, to introduce our panel and host our discussion. So over to you, Anita.
Thanks, Lorraine. That was a lovely introduction. Appreciate that. So hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. I'd like to introduce my first guest. His experience in hospitality spans 25 years, and he joined Sodexo in 2003. By 2006, he became MD of Corporate Services. He left Sodexo to found Gather and Gather. And under his leadership, the progressive business grew revenues of over 150 million by 2019. And then it was sold to CH&Co. And last year, he became Chief Operating Officer of CH&Co, working alongside Bill Toner to shape the future of the business. Can I please welcome our first guest, Alistair Richards.
Thanks, Anita. Morning, everyone.
Hospitality trained in Australia, my next guest has spent his career leading and developing international B2B food and facility service organisations. And after relocating to the UK, he joined En route International to lead the development of food and service solutions for the international airline and travel market. Joining ISS as head of group food services, he now oversees the strategic direction of food activities across the global operations. And can I then welcome Hamish Cook.
Morning, everybody. Thanks, Anita.
So our next panelist has been with Aramark for over 8 years. A qualified accountant, for 2 decades, he's been part of various finance and commercial transformation initiatives. In his current role, he's working with colleagues across the business, developing programs to establish common Aramark operating standards that delight customers, clients, and teams alike. Please welcome Commercial and Business Excellence Director, Aramark Northern Europe, Raj Chawla.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Anita, for the introduction. Thank you.
On to our next panelist, who is the out-of-home commercial director for our sponsor, Britvic Soft Drinks. Following his role as trading director at Unilever, he joined Britvic as at-home channel director before moving into his current position. Working across convenience, licensed and food service, He brings a wealth of experience. And like many of us on this webinar today, he acknowledges that the last 12 months have brought extraordinary times and feels very strongly that we should all come together to develop workable solutions for all. Can I please welcome Phil Sanders?
Thanks, Anita, and good morning all.
And last but not least, our final panelist has spent the past decade in customer experience measurement, most recently at Yo-Yo Wallet. He is a proponent of the approach to AI that includes humans in the loop to ensure that machines don't let bias creep into the training data. He speaks regularly about how machines need to ultimately serve people and help reduce misunderstanding in the world. And he's used this combination of people and AI to correctly predict the outcomes of both Brexit and the US elections. So he now focuses on applying technology to help improve loyalty and customer experience in the retail payments space. So can I please welcome JP Kloppers?
Hi everyone. Thanks, Anita.
It's a pleasure. Okay, without further ado, if I move on to our first question. So for the last 12 months, as we know, most employees have been working from home. So the return to the workplace will be definitely a strange experience for many. And I'd like to ask our first question to Alistair. Alistair, what are the key challenges affecting contract caterers within B&I as they plan to welcome back their workforce?
Thanks, Anita. Well, I wish I'd chatted to JP, because I was about to say that, you know, when people join these sorts of things looking for original insights, I get the gig of stating the blindingly obvious at the first instance, which is, you know, we don't have a crystal ball to forecast volume, particularly in workplaces. And clearly some of JP's AI intelligence might have given us a few hints and tips, but our biggest issue, of course, and for the very many supply partners dialed in, is that our ability to forecast not just short-term, but medium and long-term volumes from our traditional workplace businesses is very compromised at the moment, particularly in London. And whilst there is some positivity starting to come back into the media and the press and feedback from clients, that the prognosis is constantly changing. But I guess the challenge we've got as operators is, you know, rather than dwell on that, because frankly, we've just got to get on with it. It is what it is, and things are going to unfold as they unfold. We're looking at three main challenges to deal with the reality of reopening. The first is to strike the right balance between what we think of as familiarity, so the people, the menus, recipes and dishes that customers have missed through enforced absence, and newness. And that's about recognizing that so much has changed in people's lives that I think people's expectation is that what we deliver and how we deliver it will also demonstrate that level of reflection and change. So striking a balance between familiarity and newness. The second issue is we've got to help our teams regain confidence and stamina, frankly. And that means that at a point in our finances where we could all do with a bit of breathing space to rebuild our finances, we are going to have to, at least initially, understand that levels of productivity and energy could be compromised, and we're going to have to provide practical support to our frontline teams to deliver. And then thirdly and lastly, for me, it's as always, there's no free passes available in our industry. You know, our clients and customers are not saying, you've had a tough year, we'll let you take breath before we return with fresh or new expectations. And if anything, I think we're seeing heightened levels of sensibility and expectation around certainly environmental policies, particularly plastic and carbon reduction. And we've got to show as operating businesses that we're in touch with the sort of spirit that's come out of 2020. It's been a torrid time, but it's encouraged, I think, all of us individually and as organizations to reflect on what's truly important. So a lot of what we do is about demonstrating value to our customers through the values of our business.
Thanks, Alistair. And Hamish, you look after ISS globally from a food perspective. What do you see as the key challenges for your business, and how do these challenges kind of differ in the UK compared to other markets?
Yeah, thanks, Anita. Look, the challenges I think Alistair's outlined are very apt, and we would certainly second that they're things that we're addressing on a business perspective. I would perhaps add that we're seeing and starting to talk about social hesitancy as a challenge for us to manage, which is really our sort of thoughts about how people are going to behave in the workplace. You know, they may not behave like they used to. They may be less comfortable going to a cafeteria or an area where lots of people are congregating. So behaviour patterns are going to change in the workplace, and we have to have a strategy around managing that. In addition, perhaps, you know, another strategy for us is just the sheer volume of mobilisations we have to do over the next 3 to 6 months. If you think of the effort we put into mobilising one new contract after a contract win, we're having to replicate that in many instances in a reasonably short period of time. So, you know, the project management plans for mobilising is significant. But from a global perspective, I think every country, every region, every sector is perhaps slightly different, and that's based on, as everybody would appreciate, the stage of the pandemic in those regions. I think the European countries are certainly, the challenges are fairly similar. Possibly also North America. I think what we're seeing perhaps in Asia Pacific is something slightly different. They've had a slightly different approach in some areas, places like Australia or Singapore. They've literally closed their borders and adopted a different approach. So whilst the travel scenario has been different, the business scenario in countries perhaps been a little bit more normal. However, a little bit, in Australia, prone to changing at really short notice. So if they get a case somewhere, they will close down a city very quickly, virtually overnight. And that places another level of stress on our teams. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks for giving us the international perspective there. Now coming on to you, Phil, what's your view on the change in eating and drinking habits as people go back to their workplace?
Thanks, Anita. Yeah, I think that people who've been working at home over the last year, as many of us have really missed social contact with our colleagues. I think we all value that a lot more now as part of doing our job than we maybe did before the pandemic. And so I think there's a real opportunity here when people go back to the office, especially when they first go back to the office. I think they're going to want to take time to reconnect with their colleagues, take that hour out for lunch, have a team lunch, and go and enjoy themselves and reconnect. And I think we've all been eating home lunches for the last year, sandwiches and leftovers, and all the press would say that people have saved up a bit of money as well. So I think there's an opportunity for us to help people to indulge and trade up and spend a bit more money and a bit more time with their colleagues and re-establish those bonds. So I think that firstly, I think that's a big opportunity. Health and wellness is a big trend. I think that's at the forefront of people's minds coming out of lockdown. A lot of people have been eating more healthily through lockdown. I think there's a greater awareness of cleanliness as well. So I think there's another opportunity for us to keep guests on site rather than them going out into the high street maybe to buy a sandwich. And that we know within soft drinks, the wellness category of soft drinks is growing at 30%. So there's definitely a trend there that we can jump onto where people are going to be looking for healthier food and drink options, whether that's lower sugar soft drinks or added value, sort of extra vitamins and minerals like Purdy's, etc. So I think there's an indulgence opportunity, and I think there's a health and wellness opportunity. And we can help, we are helping food service customers. We can help to drive footfall into restaurants using our brands. We can activate our brands in the restaurants. We can, things like the Pepsi Max Champions League sponsorship. We've already executed that in thousands of B&I outlets across the country, and we can certainly drive footfall with that. And then finally, the other thing we're doing is in terms of advice for operators, we have a website called sensationaldrinks.com, where we're launching a dedicated food service portal. It's open now for registration, and that'll offer ranging advice and equipment support. It's also some offers for registered customers as well. and a tailored menu maker later this year. So that's sensationaldrinks.com if anybody wants to sign up to that one.
Thanks, Phil. That's brilliant, and a great plug for the website there.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. My next question is really for JP. We know that technology has mainly focused on when people are in the office. So JP, how can technology be used in the new normal, i.e. that hybrid of office and home?
Yeah, thanks, Anita. If you think about all the trends that we've spoken about now, the changing behavioral patterns, kind of health and wellness, people's apprehension to go in, as well as their kind of excitement and looking forward to it, tech really sits at the heart of that. And if you think about the Yo-Yo wallet, which many of you are familiar with, it's essentially a food service app in their pocket, and it allows corporate caterers to reach beyond the office walls into somebody's home. And so we've got to kind of think about how can we use that in a way that really speaks to these patterns, because wellness needs and behavioral patterns have changed, but at the core they remain the same. People, as we've heard, want to live better lives. They want to kind of be healthier. And so the question is, how do we now deliver that in this hybrid world? And clearly there's a world of opportunity in using the data to understand these new behavioral patterns, but it can also be used to both influence and support workers as these new patterns emerge. So some of the things that we're seeing is kind of a closer partnership, as Phil has said, between organizations like Britvic, High Street, and the corporate catering to try and present almost a hybrid model to people both at home and in the office. And then clearly one of the big pieces of technology and that has evolved over the last year is the ability to order remotely, order ahead, delivery, having dark kitchens that can supply people in different locations. So I think in this hybrid model, it's kind of a case of, if you can't fix it, feature it, And so I think that's the challenge that lies ahead of us is how do we feature this fact that people are now both working at home and in the office.
Thanks, JP. That was great. So moving on to an area that we've all longed for this week, which was the opening of the first phase of hospitality. But as that happens, the industry continues to anticipate lots of changes and the continued need to be agile. So I'd like to ask this first question to Raj. Raj, how is Aramark working with its customers to reopen, and what are you doing differently?
Sure, thank you, Anita. Hi, everyone. I think the challenges are going to be common for CH&Co, as Alistair said, or even ISS. We are all facing the same challenges. What we are doing from our point of view is we are in a continuous sort of dialogue with all of our clients, pretty much on a weekly basis, just to understand if there is any input, new insights they have gained or gathered, I think from their employees, and then we are able to take that into consideration as we think about reopening. For us at Aramark, it is about being flexible, safe, and having the confidence in what we do and when we really go back, because we need to instill that confidence back into our own employees as well as the customers. I would also say that there is nothing more important to us at Aramark than the safety and well-being of our employees, their families, our clients, and our customers. And our focus primarily as we go back and reopen is to create a safe working environment. That is essentially about every stakeholder, our employees, suppliers, customers, clients, and even partners. So anyone who effectively uses the site. And to that effect, last year we launched a holistic safety program called EverSafe, which is effectively now an Aramark brand. And it's built on 4 main principles. It's about total well-being, which is really important as people come back to the offices after probably or just over 12 months working from home. The operational impact, the frictionless experience, which probably ties into everything that JP said, and about collaboration. It's now time that we all collaborate. The clients, the customers, the suppliers. We need to be working together to create that environment. And on EverSafe side of things, we have actually implemented that in some of our head office locations. And we are working with our clients to make sure that we share that expertise and know-how with them as we return to the site levels. And I think most importantly, given the changing nature of the pandemic, we need to be able to mobilize, remobilize, and demobilize in line with the government guidelines. Every client and every line of business, as Alistair said previously, is different. So therefore, we need to be agile and flexible in our approach. I think there's a lot more learning to come. We know what we know so far, but we haven't actually gone into the clients. We haven't seen, we have heard a lot about people wanting to return 4 days or 3 days or 1 day back to office, but that's not going to be the view that everyone's going to share. So therefore, we need to be flexible. There may be people who want to start early, finish early, start late, finish late, and so on. So I think it's a lot about flexibility as well.
That's brilliant, Raj. Thank you. And Alistair, can I ask the same question of you? How is CH&Co working with its customers in bringing its workforce back? And what's new and different? What are you doing differently?
Okay, thanks, Anita. I mean, I liked JP's view of this need to embrace the risks in our business model, I suppose. And I think we have a choice. We're either passive in this and say, well, the volume that our addressable market will unfold before us, and then we'll get on with doing the best to capitalize, as Phil was saying, as many upselling opportunities as we can to bridge the likely gap in the number of transactions through higher transaction values. So we can take that view. But I think we've got a bigger role to play, and that's about prompting conversations with our clients for them to establish new rituals. And what I mean by that is that it's really clear that the pulse of the working week has been affected, and we believe that F&B absolutely can help to establish new office-based rituals. So working with our clients, and I would, credit to our clients, many of the sort of thought leadership has actually come from them. I'd love to say it was all us, but it's through conversations with our clients. We've got a model that segments or looks to segment our customers into 5 different need states, depending on whether they're 5-day-a-week workers right the way to the top of the pyramid to an extremely remote worker, and recognizing that all of those employees have differing practical and sort of emotional requirements from our service as a result of the last 12 months. But we've got an opportunity to tailor and provide a service to all of those need states, if you like, and those customer groups. And we haven't really thought like that before, because we thought about our addressable market and we've not thought about how to reach our less obviously addressable market. And that's a big change for us.
That's really interesting. And I love that concept of new rituals, which I'm sure we're all going to be part of. So JP, you manage a contactless payment solutions business, as we've heard. So my next question is for you. How are you working with brands such as Britvic to help alleviate the challenges that caterers are facing when their employees are returning to their clients' offices?
Great question. At our core, we're a data platform that's trying to understand this individual buying behavior and then appropriately use that to allow caterers and merchants to build dynamic customer segments based on that behavior, just as Alistair was saying, to kind of understand different groups and how they behave, and then to create messages and campaigns which are best suited to that specific segment. And this is what we've been doing for years, obviously, but it's very relevant now as it's not just business as usual. And if you think about the different elements there, Britvic obviously do a whole lot, but one of the elements in here that they can offer is great prizes, incentives, almost like the sugar in the chocolate, if you like. And if you put these together, and this is where I loved, I think it was Raj who was saying we have to collaborate here. You put together the technology, what Britvic can do, the infrastructure that the corporate catering companies have, and you really have the ingredients of chocolate. And what people don't want is all the ingredients on their own. They want the finished product. And so that's up to us to figure out how do we kind of put the milk and the sugar and the cocoa together to give customers something that they think, man, that's really delicious. I want that. And so the kinds of ways in which we work together is to do exactly that, is to put those things together, to use the best of gamification techniques that we've learned over years, to create incentives for coming back, exciting things for people to participate in, to establish those new rituals that Alistair was talking about and reconnect with colleagues. And all of that, you can almost kind of create the nudges in their pocket to help facilitate that, which is quite powerful. And yeah, I mean, there are many ideas we can talk about, from subscriptions to just the kind of no queues, just jump ahead. There are many ways in which you can, as I mentioned earlier, if you can't fix it, feature it. Just meet people where they're at to say, hey, we understand how things have changed, and we're now offering these products and services in a way that's both appropriate and kind of exciting in this new normal.
That's brilliant. Thank you. You're making me very hungry with your chocolate analogy, by the way. So our next kind of question is, and I'm sure every single person on this webinar will be wanting an answer to this. It's the $6 million question, and that's when will companies be bringing back their workforces? And I'd like to ask the first question to Raj. As a caterer, Raj, what are your expectations for employees to return to the workplace? And is this aligned to what your clients' expectations are, what they're telling you?
Sure, thank you, Anita. I think it's a lot more than $6 million, by the way. I think the benefit we have is, as a multinational, we have the benefit of building from a wide range of client expectations, given that we have our footprint across the globe. And the other benefit we've had is we've had some learnings really from our colleagues and clients in places like China, Korea, Japan, in some cases in the US and Canada, where some of our businesses are back to 100% volume. So that has for us been a great sort of learning curve from those geographies where we are really engaged on a weekly basis. It's about how our own employees are reacting to returning back to work, how customers are reacting, what their demands are, how clients are changing as the customers really come back. I think looking forward, it's stating the obvious, but the pandemic has fundamentally changed the way people live, work, and engage with others. But yet again, we worked in isolated environments, pretty much at home, by ourselves, and then going back to an office environment and how our preferences will change. Again, it comes back to that flexible approach I touched on previously. I think as you look at the analysis as companies, I'm sure we all are, and look at different sort of research, the eagerness to return to work, which was pretty much at around 30-40%, is now above 50% level. So it's not as fundamental as full return to work or full working from home, but nonetheless, it shows that people are willing to come back to offices in some sort of capacity. And I think as we achieve the pre-COVID level and get to around sort of 2019 environment, we will see that number increasing, from 50, 60, 70, 80, 90%. At some point, we'll come back to as normal as possible. Difficult to predict, though. We are also conscious that in the short term, not every person will want to sort of go back to 5-day working. So how do we actually cater for when they are in the office? And do they have specific days they want to be coming into the office? Is it Monday and Friday they want to work from home and come into the office sort of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? So employers also, I think, need to support the caterers and the companies, because they need to remember that the valuable role the office plays in engaging employees and creating better products and solutions really also helps them. Working in isolation versus working with 5 different people in an office environment, brainstorming, talking about things, it helps the companies itself. And in fact, recently I was reading an article about Amazon, where they have actually changed their views on how and when their employees will return. So I think they have recently announced that they expect full return to office, because that's where they think they get the best ideas really formed in an office environment when people are engaged with each other. And there are many other companies like Amazon who are now changing their views as to people need to come back in full capacity at some point.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Raj. It's clearly a complex issue, and as you said, it's impossible to predict, but that was really insightful. Thank you. Hamish, could I ask the same question to you? What are your feelings, your predictions?
Like Raj, there's lots of different data points out there to look at with regards to what people think. I think we need to remember that the office is only one type of workplace. There's lots of manufacturing and production facilities that are actually operating at full capacity already, and I think that's something that we sometimes forget. We sort of think we jumble work into one sort of size fits all. I think some of the information that I've looked at recently from our own data collection and also more general data information is that there is a slight disconnect between what employees want with regards to returning to the office and perhaps what senior leaders in business want. There is, I think senior leaders, see the need to collaborate and get people, back to some form of productivity at a reasonable sort of return rate. And employees are very happy, in many instances, and believe they can do the job, from home equally as well, and that's great as well. But what I have noticed from some of the information and the clients we've been talking to is 6 months ago, people were saying, 2 to 3 days, back in the office. I think we've had some examples recently where people are saying really by the end of the year, they want to be at 85, 95% back in the office. So I think as this is dragged on, people are absolutely desperate to get back to some form of normality, some form of routine. And I'm not sure we'll ever return to the 5 days, 100% in the office, but I see it creeping up over time. Yeah.
That's really interesting, and an interesting point about not one size not fitting all. So thank you for that. Phil, can I turn to you? As a supplier, how are you working with your contract catering customers to meet their kind of expectations from a supply and demand perspective?
Sorry, Anita, classic, need to come off on mute. So look, as many of the panelists already said, look, there are a huge amount of unknowns about how people will behave when they return to work. I think, my biggest thought overall is we've got to work together. We've got to learn fast as people return to work and we realise what's happening, and then we've got to be agile as an industry in the way that we respond to those changes in demand, because we've all got points of view, but frankly we'll all be a bit wrong, and so we'll learn as we go along. I mean, we've talked to a number of operators out there about the challenges and concerns that they've got for reopening, and I don't think any of the stuff that comes out will be revolutionary to anybody, but it's about waste, higher waste levels on perishable items. It's about, will people want more pre-packed items from a hygiene point of view? Will that be seen to be a good thing? How can we use meal deals to drive increased spend? If there's going to be social distancing measures with increased dwell time and queuing time, how can we encourage additional purchase while people are queuing and waiting? How can we offer a one-stop shop of solutions to keep people in the canteen rather than going to the high street, etc.? So there's a number of ways that we can work together on those topics to meet guest demand expectations. And then the other really big one that I think we're in danger of forgetting, but actually Alistair mentioned it earlier on, I was really pleased to hear that, is sustainability. There was a thought at the start of the pandemic that said, would sustainability go right down people's agendas? And it hasn't. People going back to work still care about the planet. And so, we know that within soft drinks, plastic, single-use plastic is a huge topic, and how we address that as an industry, especially with a deposit return scheme coming in Scotland next year, we have to work out how we're addressing that. And that creates some hassle and some challenge, but it also creates opportunities as well that we can use to push that proactively as a message to guests in restaurants. So we'll be in 100% recycled PET by the end of 22. And if operators want to get out of plastic altogether, there are dispense solutions that we can offer as well. And some operators are definitely thinking about shifting in that direction too. So there are definitely opportunities out there.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Phil. Onto my next question. I think Alistair mentioned it right at the start about the importance of supporting teams as they're coming back into this kind of challenging environment. So, as you're bringing your teams back, what measures are you taking to help your staff? So I'd like to ask you that question, Raj. What measures are you taking within Aramark?
Sure. Thank you, Anita. I think at Aramark, it's very clear. Our people are the greatest sort of asset we have. And again, going back to sort of my previous example where we are using learnings effectively from our own entities outside of Northern Europe. And I'll use an example of China here. So China went into a full sort of lockdown, probably around January, February time. They were pretty much back to, I would say, 80, 90% by the time we got to June 2020. And around sort of November, December, they were pretty much at 100% levels. The biggest challenge our colleagues in China had was actually instilling confidence in our own employees to effectively come back to work. It started off at around 50%, and then it slowly built up to everyone really coming back to work. So we have to relate that to what people have actually gone through in Europe. We've had an extended period of lockdowns, a lot more than China. So the well-being, mental effects of that are probably a lot stronger, what they probably saw in China. So I think our employees are also customers elsewhere. So it's really important to understand what people have gone through over the last 12 months is very unusual. It's something we've never experienced before. So we need to allow them time when they come back. And we have always really tried to support our employees' well-being. And we have focused over the last few months on ensuring awareness of protocols was matched by understanding and action from our Aramark standpoint. And our comms team have done an amazing job in terms of cutting through the noise and the information and the misinformation in the public domain. I mean, we get analysis pretty much every day and different information every day about the vaccination program, side effects, and so on. And also by focusing on regular updates, which became really important because a lot of our frontline employees were actually at home and they were not really aware of what's really going around in the company. So by focusing on regular updates, well-being surveys, webinars and team meetings, I think that's really helped our employees be on top of exactly what's going on, understanding what the company's approach to pandemic is, the company's approach to reopenings is. And we'll make sure that we have the well-being and the mental health programs continued as the sites reopen and our employees come back. So that's really important for us, Anita.
Brilliant, thank you. That sounds like a great program of support for your people. So I'd like to move on now to kind of the area of, you know, like many, I guess, and I think it was Phil who said it, everyone is desperate to get together over lunch or a coffee with their colleagues. I know I can't wait to see my team. So what are you going to have in place when your employees do return to the office? So I'd like to ask that first question to JP. How are you working with catering customers to encourage employees to visit staff, dining areas, and to ultimately spend more money?
I think as a first step, we're really just helping our catering partners understand how customers are coming back, how employees are coming back. What does that look like, both kind of month by month, but I think more importantly, day by day? You know, what is the new frequency? How are the spending patterns changing? And then how do we collectively need to respond accordingly? Because once you have that kind of dynamic segmentation, there's lots we can do. And so we're kind of working with at a base level just to help communicate messages around safety, environmental impact, which we've heard, specific COVID protocols. You know, all of that can be built into those comms as people arrive. But then you can really look at how do you, if it is important to try and get people together on a specific day to try and foster that cohesion between groups, you can create campaigns around that to target specific outlets, times of day, that sort of thing. And then send messages or offers to employees to come back, to create specific campaigns around, you know, the first time you come back, here's whether it might be a specific offer. But I think importantly, what you want to try and establish is behavioral change. It's giving people both that kind of security and peace of mind to know it's okay, but then for that not to be a once-off visit, but actually there's a sustained behavioral change. And that's where both the technology, but I think importantly the behavioral psychology behind habit forming changes that you can build into the gamification techniques that we use to not just make it a once-off offer, but actually a long-term change around creating streaks, and we can talk for hours about that. But that would be one aspect. And then the other aspect is really around trying to build as quickly as we can the additional features that our corporate caterers need as things develop, like order to desk. We kind of foresee that as something which will become more important. You know, people want to come back to the office, but not necessarily sit in the cafeteria with a whole lot of other people. And so creating little pods within that environment becomes important. So those would be kind of the main ways in which we're working with the catering partners.
Thanks, JP. And I'd like to move on to Alistair. What initiatives are you kind of carrying out in CH&Co to keep your kind of employees on, our clients' employees on site?
Well, I think on top of of those sort of 5 need states, and then we've developed new food concepts and offers to address, the regularity with which people are in the office. So if someone's in the office 5 days a week, as Phil was saying earlier, their fundamental need and prioritization around wellness and healthy eating has been amplified over the last 12 months. So you've got a very different need state to someone that's maybe going in 2 days a week, or maybe on alternate weeks, who then wants to connect with the team, and then it's more about indulgence and treating and sort of food to connect teams together. So at a practical sort of tactical level, it's food offers and concepts that directly target those different needs. And then I suppose the wrapping around that is the sort of mentality from our marketing approach, which is all around sort of, we've got this. I think people have really missed the experience of being served, and being looked after. It's the fundamental nature of hospitality. And it's almost this sort of thing that says, look, everyone, you can put your sourdough starter down now, put your banana bread loaf tins away. We've got you, and the difference is, our sponge always rises, whereas, and it's that kind of recognition that everyone's thrown themselves into looking after themselves, but kind of now we've got you. And if we layer that sense of welcome and warmth of hospitality with quite deliberately targeted approaches for each of those different sort of customer requirement states, then I think that's certainly our approach in CH&Co.
That's brilliant, thank you. I love that concept of we've got you. I think that sums up everything really. So moving on, I think we're going to look at technology a little bit for the next question. And we all know that the use of technology within the whole industry is accelerated as a result of COVID, including mobile ordering, contactless payments, loyalty schemes, etc. So I'd like to ask you the next question, Raj. What's Aramark, how is it using technology to engage with its customers and their employees to ultimately enhance your catering offer?
Sure, thank you, Anita. I think we've all of us really look at new technology to be ahead of the game effectively all the time. But what COVID's done is it's added a bit more urgency in terms of how we provide or bring more innovation to our clients and to our customers. And the last 12 months has given us that time and opportunity to build on our technology offering. And we would like to, and we have tried to innovate with and for our clients. So as a practical sort of example, we are looking at a range of digital solutions, which is primarily around frictionless engagement, trying to reduce as many touch points as possible. So as customers come into a restaurant environment or a cafe environment, they're able to sort of pre-order, prepay. We have grab and go sort of solutions. We have the e-shops effectively, the Amazon e-shops in the US, we're looking at that as well. So it all depends on the client and the site and the capacity at site level. So these are not solutions that where one size fits all. So really dependent on the investment that's required, the size and the volume. So for us, technology is more really around the experience, more focused on experience and not really getting too many gadgets and softwares and apps introduction. And personally, from my point of view, I feel that we are in the business of creating memorable sort of experiences, the innovations, the partnerships, the brand, they're all important, but nothing can really replace the barista who remembers your favorite coffee, when you're going there to grab that, or the chef who makes your favorite meal, or the cleaning team who actually gives you a smile before you leave the office and get home. So nothing can really replace that. So whilst technology is really important for time being, I think we will come back to the normal as we experienced before COVID really happened.
Brilliant, thank you, Raj. And my next question is to Phil. How are you harnessing technology to support your contract catering customers?
Yeah, Anita, we've been working with a number of technology partners, including Yo-Yo Wallet with JP, over recent years to drive footfall and to drive loyalty to our brands. And we know that those tech solutions, they can deliver value, they can deliver targeted rewards, and they can deliver actually quite a lot of fun and engagement for guests in restaurants. And they also, as a branded manufacturer, they allow us to engage directly with our consumers, clearly on a one-to-one basis as well. And we know that the pandemic has only accelerated the use of mobile technology. We've all got a lot more used to being contactless and using mobile apps, etc. So I think there's even more opportunity for that going forward than there has been. And in terms of creativity, there's a huge amount you can do in this area. We've used, not necessarily in food service, but in our on-trade customers, we've used augmented reality with our J2O brand. We've done digital activity packs for children with Fruit Shoot, etc. You can get really creative in this area and produce some really exciting stuff to engage consumers. And the additional benefit is the data that comes with it. It allows us as a branded manufacturer to really get into that data, understand the behaviors, and then really tailor our offerings to those consumers going forward. Brilliant,
thank you. I'm really conscious that we need to look at the questions and there's a lot of questions from attendees. So if we can rattle through the next two questions, that would be much appreciated. So the next question is, there's been lots of challenges, as we know, but the wonderful thing is there's been a huge amount of innovation as a result of COVID. So Hamish, what new opportunities has ISS seen within your business, not only in the UK, but globally?
Yeah, thanks, Anita. I think it's actually been a really exciting sort of period for business as a whole. I think business has become, in my mind, a lot more entrepreneurial. We've been much more open to new left or right field ideas than perhaps we previously may have been. It's allowed our teams and our leaders to sort of behave slightly differently, challenge the norm through necessity, and that's been fantastic. But from an ISS perspective, our business model is all about how we integrate a range of services in the workplace to add value to the whole workplace experience. And I think the opportunity for us has been to collaborate across our functional service lines like cleaning or technical services or food, and how we tie that integration much more closely to the employee's experience as they journey through the day, from arriving at work, making sure that they're feeling safe, making sure we're using technology to allow them to pre-order their meals on their first coffee of the day and things like that, so that it's ready, making sure that there's touch points that they can see that everything's clean and hygienic throughout their day. So I think that ability to integrate and work collaboratively as a team is a great opportunity for everybody.
Brilliant, thanks a lot, Hamish. And Alistair, same question to you. What's this allowed you to do that otherwise you wouldn't have done in CH&Co?
I think, and I like JP's "if you can't fix it, feature it" statement, because I think what we've done is we've realised we had two choices. We either sort of lick our wounds at the short to medium term loss in addressable customers, or we start to think more broadly about the people that our clients employ and how we can actually deliver services or support to them wherever they may be. And to give a live example, you get somewhere like a retail bank that might employ 60,000 people. We may have had 40,000 of them as addressable customers, and going forward there may only be 15,000. Well, we either kind of, as I say, count the loss of the, can't do the sums, 45,000 people, that we won't see it anymore, or we say actually we never touched 20,000 people. They were working differently, they were working in a branch network, or they were working from home. And what's happened is our clients, through their own realization of the impact on them personally working from home, have thought, my God, our food and drink programs and our wellness programs never touch these people. They've got heightened awareness. They're looking to us for solutions that they never sought before. And again, that means if we're agile enough, then maybe there's some new opportunities. So as long as Hamish said, we're all willing to make a few mistakes, and we have, and we will continue to do that, and not hang ourselves over it, then there's opportunity there.
Brilliant, thank you. And if I can ask the next two panelists to keep their answers really brief before we go into the final question. Phil, what are the new opportunities for Britvic with your contract catering customers?
Briefly, Anita, that we see a number of opportunities. Outdoor spaces, we're good at helping people to zhuzh up outdoor spaces and make them interesting. And we saw on Monday, beer gardens were all full. The demand is there. If there's extended working hours because people are staggering working hours because of social distancing, we can help with snacking opportunities, take-home solutions, etc. JP mentioned it earlier on, home delivery, takeaways, etc. We've seen that coming through the pandemic as well. Again, we can help with different pack sizes and designing menus, etc. But look, I think the biggest opportunity going forward about partnering is around data and insight. It's for me, this is the biggest opportunity we need to get our heads around as an industry. There's lots of stuff we don't know, and there's lots of stuff we're going to learn over the coming months. And my big request of the caterers is please can we share as much of that as possible so we can all learn quickly and collaborate and satisfy our guests, because they'll do stuff that we're not expecting over the coming months.
Brilliant, and that's a great segue into you, JP. What new opportunities are you seeing in the catering sector? And again, if you could be brief so we can get lots of questions in. Thank you.
Right, very quickly, people have become used to QR codes, which really helps in this contactless world. Some of the trends, I think, as Phil mentioned, richer data sets the opportunity for AI to kind of learn from that. Dynamic segmentation, cross-retailer collaboration, click and collect, order to table, last mile delivery. I think those are all the kind of opportunities and trends that we're seeing.
That's brilliant. That's perfect. Thank you. Final question, and if you could sum this up, ideally in one word or one sentence, big challenge, that would be fantastic. So I'd like to ask all of you, what's the one thing you absolutely want to do and want to nail in your business this year? So Alistair, if I can ask you to kick off, please.
Just help the teams recover physically, emotionally, financially. If we don't do that, we don't have a business.
Fantastic.
Right, yeah.
And Raj, what's your view?
Well, same as Alistair, our priority is to create a safe working environment, and most importantly, restore customer confidence. There's nothing better than face-to-face interaction at workplace.
Brilliant. And Hamish? Hamish, you're on mute. Sorry.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Look, like everybody, mobilising our business in a safe manner for our customers and our employees. Yeah.
Fantastic. Phil?
I want to learn quickly in partnership with customers, understand what the new normal looks like, and grow our joint business.
Thank you. And again, last but not least, JP.
I think for us, we want to create really engaging and fulfilling loyalty experiences for employees.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. That was a brilliant answer to that final question. Appreciate it. Now we've got lots of questions coming in from attendees. So I'd like to introduce my colleague, Fiona, who's been capturing these throughout the session. Hi, Fiona.
Hi, morning. Thanks, Anita. That was great. It's prompted lots of questions. So I'll kick off with the one that was most frequently asked by a few anonymous, and also Harriet Brown and Mike Fox. So the question is, what can suppliers do to support you over the next 3 to 6 months that isn't necessarily just free stock or promotions?
Raj, do you want to answer that first question?
Sure. I think for most of us, what's happened is that we've had some of our lines of businesses that are open, and some have been closed and remobilized and closed again. So we have tested a lot of new technology, and by that we have also gathered some interesting sort of MI. What we are able to do is to use that MI and data around customer behaviors, preferences, and so on with our suppliers to plan ahead. I think it's going to be very difficult. So it's going to be a learning curve, at least over the next sort of 3 to 6 months, because there's no right answer. So we need to be on the journey with our suppliers initially. And then I think things will become a lot more clearer as we see through probably the Q4 of this year and sites reopen fully.
Brilliant. And does any other member of the panel want to comment on the question? Nope. Okay, so moving on to the next question, Fee.
Next one. So Caroline Otterio has asked, do you see the rise of delivery as a challenge to workplace businesses? And if so, how concerned are you about it? And what are you planning to do to defend your on-site sales?
Oh, I'm looking at Alistair or Hamish to answer that one, potentially.
Happy to start off, Anita. Yeah, of course, it's a risk, but equally there's opportunities for collaboration and partnerships. And of course, we're all concerned about inviting the old Trojan horse into our business relationships, aren't we? So we're watching that one carefully. There's things that we can do, and we're all, I know, developing our own dark kitchen CPU capabilities so that we have got a more sophisticated delivery model ourselves. I know we've all launched products in the market with varying degrees of success. So there's opportunity to defend. I also think we have a unique understanding of how people want to eat at work. And whilst we all recognise that may have been impacted over the 12 months of the pandemic, I think one of the questions raised is, surely things will find their natural level again over the months to come. And so we are uniquely placed to understand how people want to eat at work, and also how our host partners want their food programs to influence productivity and health and wellness. So it's great to be able to order anything you want on delivery, and frankly, I've done too much of it. And great business though they are, it's not so great for health and wellness if it's not controlled, and that's what a food service provider offers. So,
would anyone else like to comment on the question? No. Next question, Fee.
The next one actually links in, so perhaps one for someone else other than Alistair. But Clive Moxham at Leathams has asked about kind of the challenges on volumes in the short to mid-term. Are the other panelists looking at central kitchens to service multiple sites and to help with volumes and supply chain generally?
Who'd like to pick this one up from the panel?
Look, I'm happy to sort of have a couple of comments on that. I think naturally, I think central kitchens, central production facilities, and how we procure food is relevant and should be part of any sort of business review and model. And naturally, we're doing that across our business. We have, hub and spoke type arrangements in place in a number of geographic areas across the world. I think it's a solution. It may never be, completely the way to go, but I think it's part of a jigsaw puzzle of servicing clients in the workforce. Yeah.
Brilliant. And Raj, Phil, JP, any comments on that?
Yeah, similarly, I think we are also testing some of our dark kitchen CPUs from our existing facilities, especially where the volumes are going to be pretty low, at 10, 20, 30% level. So it doesn't make sense to have a fully functional kitchen at site level. So yeah, we are testing that at the moment, but again, things are changing every day. And I think the demand will creep back up to a higher percentage. But yes, I mean, it's in testing phase at the moment, yeah. So we are utilizing the facilities where we can.
Thank you very much. Next question, Fee.
So there's one here from James Jones on hot beverages and the changing need state in food service. So for example, do you still see customers queuing for coffee in the staff room? How do you think hot beverages will change due to the pandemic?
So who wants to take that one? Phil, I saw you nodding there.
I can't claim to be an expert on hot beverages, Anita. I do cold ones pretty well. So look, in terms of we'll from the queuing point of view, I mentioned it earlier on. I mean, look, there will be an issue with queuing and social distancing, but I think people will work their way around it. I think people will work it out because ultimately, people are sensible and will work with each other. And I think there is, in terms of queuing generally, an opportunity for us to be able to use people in queues and that dwell time to upsell as well while they're there.
I think just very quickly there. Sorry, JP, you go ahead.
After you, Raj.
So yeah, I think this is where effectively your solution, JP, your app or the app we are developing internally is really helpful, which is pre-order prepay. So you can effectively pre-order, you can select the time. So there's no effectively need for queuing. You just go there, collect your drink, and you come back. So that's really our way of getting over the queuing issues.
Brilliant.
I was going to say the same thing. We've seen that trend already play out in as high streets has had to evolve from in-store to kind of click and collect and delivery. A lot of people have realized, okay, I don't need to stand in the queue anymore. I can just order ahead.
Brilliant, thank you. We've probably got time for one, possibly two quick questions for you.
Okay, well, quite an interesting one that ties in to the service from Naomi Griffiths. So on a recent seminar, she's been learning quite a lot about vending machines, perhaps, or even return to office table service coming back. What are your views on those sort of tactics to keep the customer engagement going?
Who would like to take this one?
Yeah, Anita, from a vending point of view, look, we're certainly seeing a vending opportunity, and I know a number of the vending operators are talking about how can they come across differently from a vending point of view. Through the pandemic, they've been vending PPE and stuff like that, etc. And going forward, they're tapping into the health and wellness side of things. So healthier vending machines, etc. There's a way of doing vending in a different way that's more appropriate going forward that we can tap into.
Anyone else like to comment on that?
Anita, hi. We partner with one of the supermarkets on sort of micro markets in different environments, and we're seeing more inquiries around that model. But as Raj said, that's very much based on the here and now of 20-30% expectations, and we'll see what the conversion level is if that starts to build.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm afraid we have run out of time. That was an amazing discussion. Some of the key takeouts, single words were agility, new rituals, market segmentation, well-being, technology to engage, and of course, not forgetting sustainability. Thank you so much, and I'd like to hand back to Lorraine.
Thanks ever so much, Anita, for hosting our panel discussion, and a huge thank you to Alistair, Hamish, Raj, Phil and JP for their fantastic insight. And also, last but not least, for Britvic Soft Drinks for actually supporting as headline sponsor today, and also Phil, your contribution. It's really very much appreciated. With all Arena events, we'd really value your feedback. So when you end, there is going to be a survey that will pop up in your browsers. It will literally take you 2 minutes to complete. So as an audience, we'd really like to know, what you think worked well today, what you'd like to see in future webinars, and what you think we should be doing differently. So thanks ever so much, everyone. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And for those of you going to the pub at the weekend, let's hope the sun shines on us all and enjoy. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.